Hey, Black Tribers, here we are.
Wait, let's see if everyone can guess where we are.
See? Okay, wait, guys, if you're watching on our Patreon site on Wednesday, my wife's gift, we're doing video, so I have a Colorado shirt, and I have a new Colorado mug. I won't tell you what's in it. It's very tasty.
It's sweet
And
tea, I'm sure.
we're clearly still in Colorado Springs.
Still in Colorado.
And we're having a blast being back in the States, seeing our grandbabies, our babies. Spending a ton of time with Noah. Those of you that know our 17-year-old.
We actually not spend that much time with him. He's
No,
very busy.
he's a very busy man.
Very 17. He has lots of friends.
And when we were with our granddaughters, our 6-year-old granddaughter has all of her buddies now, and she was just
She was very busy. I know. I missed her.
Yeah,
Her and I both cried a little bit.
we need people
We'll
that
get
need
back
us more.
this year.
All right, welcome to part 11 of our series on all things marriage/relationships. We are in the middle of talking about seasons. And like we said last week on the podcast, there's hundreds of seasons in life. And what you need to do is take from every single season and learn what that season's there to teach you. If it's a bad season, why is this here? What's it supposed to teach me? And I want to walk away being transformed by that season. If it's a really great season, we know it's ending. So we drink deeply of that good season. Remember the really good times in that season so we can recall them. Remember, men, we don't need fantasies, we need memories. And so with my wife, I just remember some of the, we have, since being in Colorado, we've made some incredible memories, and we'll keep making memories, and it's awesome, right? And so, last week we
talked about summer,
Summer.
which is the new and the fresh,
Summer
and the
season of
shiny
marriage.
and all the new things, and then the fall, which gets a little chillier, more things come to the surface, and usually fall will lead us right into winter.
And so we're going to go into winter. And I believe there are winter times in your marriage that you trudge through. And then I believe there's some really dark wintry nights in your marriage where you don't think you're going to make it. You might use the divorce word, which we encourage you not to, but we've used it many times through our lives. So don't be freaked out by it.
I didn't actually want to divorce you. I just was hoping you would die in your sleep at one point.
There you go. Die in my sleep.
I don't feel that way anymore.
Oh, good.
We made
Good.
it-
Mwah. They
You're
don't
welcome.
want to see us kissing on video.
No, nobody wants to see that.
And so today, babe, lead us down into winter.
What happens in the winter?
Okay, but real quick recap. So
I
fall.
did. We already did.
But fall is, I'm noticing things about you.
Things
You're
are
starting to bug me.
things are
There's
coming to the
offenses coming
surface.
up.
Yeah.
And if we buy into those things and
Yeah.
don't get to humility, we go into winter.
Well, and I think there's two different kinds of winter.
Okay.
I think there are winters that you have control over, and your arrogance and your lack of humility and your pride will keep you in winter until you die, or your spouse dies, or you get divorced. And then there's winters that fall upon you like a blizzard that you have no control over and that you have to try and navigate.
Yeah.
So, we have friends that have children with severe disabilities that shifted their life in a way that they could have never foreseen, they could have never prepared for. That was nobody's fault. There was nothing anyone could do for it, but they had to navigate their entire marriage, their entire life around that happening in their family.
Yes.
But then there's people that even in, just in the fall seasons of being a human being on the earth, this is my most amazing thing about coming back to America is the things that people complain about. I have probably gone to Walmart or Target every day since we got here because we have nothing.
And she loves Target.
We don't have anything. We don't have spoons. We don't have anything. So I'm just little by little, getting some towels and some different things and getting life ready. And everyone keeps telling me, I'm sorry you had to wait. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry. I'm like, you can't do anything to me in this country to offend me because this is the
Third world problems.
We have
First
this
world
mentality that, sadly, all of our servers and everybody that works to take care of us feels like they have to apologize all the time because we're so elite and we're so privileged and we're so spoiled, and we can get that way in our marriage.
Ooh.
And we can get in that way of where when we start getting that attitude, and it happens, I think, to women much more than men because of the media that we're exposed to as women, is that a man was created to make me happy. And if he isn't making me happy, he's the problem, and I need to get rid of him.
Wow.
And the truth is, I'm responsible for myself.
Yes.
And he's an addition and a partner to my dreams. He is not an obstacle to my dreams, and I am not an obstacle to his dreams. So
That's not what we run into a lot.
No.
In our coaching, there's obstacles.
So when we talk about winter, please keep in mind, like when our son died, that we could not have prepared for, planned for, done anything, but it hit our marriage like a bomb, and it hit our family like a bomb. And there was a couple weeks where all we did was cry, yell, and it was a sudden death. It happened suddenly. And there was one moment in your truck, I remember you were telling me, wait, I think I figured out what happened with Michael, and I think I could have helped him. And I instantly started blaming you for his death. And we had a couple days where we had to make a decision, like, if we decide to let this death of our child destroy our marriage, we're going to destroy our ministry, our voice, our example, our personal lives, our children's lives, and our grandchildren's lives.
Children's.
If we decide to come together in this horrendous time and lean on each other and become partners in this, we're actually going to grow as people.
Wow.
But for years, it was survival.
That seems like a dream.
Yes. But
because
we did it.
We hear a lot all the time that they're just not my partner. They're just not wanting to enter in to the hard stuff with me. And guys, guess what? There's nothing harder, and I can say this because I'm an expert in it, than losing a child. I had almost committed adultery just a little bit before that Michael passed. And Lisa and I had to walk through that. And I didn't cross the line out a little bit, but it didn't do anything. And I had to bring that to her on our anniversary, and we had to work through that. And right out of getting somewhere with that is when we lost Michael.
We were just getting our heads above water.
And so it shoved us right back into that wintry, horrible time. And so, look, you're going to have these times, guys, and I pray to God you never have to lose a child or anything like that. But what I can tell you now on the other side is that we've allowed the pain of Michael to transform our marriage. Not that it's easy, not that we can't still go really dark and really deep into that, not that it doesn't suck all the time. All of those things are real. But what we have learned to do is say, God, what do you want to teach us in this so that we can help transform other people's lives? And we become the experts, as you guys know. We get the calls when the next child dies. We hate being those people, but we're going to be those people because we've actually allowed the Father to transform us into something different. And so you can do this, guys. There's hope for your marriage. There's hope no matter what you're going through. I promise you, God wants to take you into this wintry season. He wants to sit in it with you, even though you won't feel like he's there. You don't know how to get to him. This is why we always say in the summer seasons is when you get that very well-worn path to the tree of life. You know how to get to Jesus in the good seasons. Yeah. So when the winter comes, you can crawl, if you have to, in the dark to get to that tree of life, and you stay alive and you stay in your marriage.
Yeah, and it's it's an example, honestly, because the first incident that hit our marriage so hard was a choice, and there was control over that, but a choice was made, and the choice afterwards, however, was what to deal with it. What happened with our son was not a choice. Mm-hmm. We were blindsided by it. But no matter if it was someone's choice and someone did something and brought something in, or if calamity has just rained down on your household with you having no control over it, the choice of how you're going to respond is everything.
Everything.
And I never bring up that time in our marriage because it's the past. We've forgiven. We've moved past it. So now it's his story to tell. It's no longer my story to tell. It's his story that whenever he wants to share that, but I never bring it up with anyone. And it never comes up in fights because it's gone. It's done. God
doesn't even remember, guys, the terrible things you did. I mean, again, you just go read David. Go read Samuel. 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. David, saw Bathsheba and had sex with her and then killed her husband. And he had to run back to the Lord, and God even says in that he forgot that David had done that once David's heart came back to his and he true repentance, and it happened. And so you can't throw these things back into each other's face in your wintry times, especially, because if you do, you'll stay in winter.
Yeah, and it's not to say that when things are really major that there's not going to be some really dark, dreary, cold days that you're going to have to walk through. And the way that I chose to walk through that was that I accepted the fact that today is just going to suck.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to cry all day today, and I'm probably not going to accomplish a great deal of things. And every once in a while I would just surrender to that. And then I would think, but you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to start over, and it's going to be a new day, and there's hope in the new day. And there were years like that
Yeah.
for us that we went through this winter season. I don't think we would have stayed in our winter season as long as we did had there not been so much pride, had there not been so much anger,
Absolutely.
and had we been able to push through those things quicker, I think we would have exited that season.
I agree.
It does take both parties to agree to do that.
And guys, we didn't have a Gary and Lisa Black in our lives. We didn't have a podcast that we could go listen to because there was
so
no podcast.
awesome.
And
I
we
would
were
have
alone.
loved to have. I did talk to myself all the time, and I did not have any good advice to give myself at that time.
That wasn't bragging. That was just,
I
hey, you
know.
have hope. All right.
Yeah.
So winter.
Okay, so
Talk to us.
winter can be very dismal, and one of the main things that's going to come up is self-protective, because the second we're hurt, we're going to start protecting ourselves, and that's when we start also putting that on that other person. And this is when we see couples usually they're like, we're at the end, and this is the time where you're like, I can't tell you when this started. All I know is it's here now, and I don't know how to get back to here.
Yes.
And it literally is a layering upon layering, just like the winter, just like the snow, just like the clothes you have to put on, of just layers of things that have happened that either you haven't dealt with, never had a conversation about. There was a couple months ago, I said, I have to tell you about this thing. It happened 6 years ago, but it's still in my face, and it really ticked me off.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at you today because it's affecting me today. And then I was fine.
I wasn't. I was on the ground bleeding.
No, you were fine.
Because I was like, I don't even remember this. And so, guys, women never forget.
But the reason I was so upset was because you, at that time, were not listening to my wisdom. And I did have some wisdom in the situation that said, please do not do this. I'm begging you, do not do this. This is going to blow up in our face. And when it blew up in our face and was still affecting us, it brought all that up. And I realized I'd never really fully said, you know what, you really ticked me off. If we had made that decision together and it blew up in our face, I would have been like, that's life. But because you went directly against what I knew, which how often do I say, I know?
Not very often.
And I said, I know this is going to blow up.
And I simply did it out of the fear of man. Let me tell you something, guys. Don't ever do multi-level. Okay, if you're a kingdom person, you just can't be a Christian and do multi-level.
You just lost half of our friends.
I'm kidding. If you do it and you're going to give your whole life to it, do it. But I had done a multi-level, and I was under some pressures from some friends and got a car because we'd hit a certain level. And Lisa knew we weren't supposed to get this BMW. I did it anyway, against her wishes, and then it just came back on our faces the other day and is ruining our credit because the person we gave it to didn't pay for the car, didn't pay on it. And so it was a little bit out of my control that we're getting dinged now, but she was absolutely right. She told me not to do it. And so listen, guys, your wife has intuition, and when she is in a good place and she just wants the best for you, listen very closely. Now I don't even hesitate. If she hesitates on any decision we're making, I just go, nope, we're moving on, right? Because I don't need to make anything happen.
Why?
Because I can trust you.
Okay, not because you're afraid of me.
No,
because the other day,
well, I am a little afraid of you, but I trust you.
I work in a world of all men, and I don't say very much. I really try. I hold my tongue until I feel like I have something really important to say, and I really honor them as men, and I love them as brothers. But every once in a while, I'll shoot out an email and say, hey guys, this is what I'm feeling, and immediately, love you, Lisa. You're right, Lisa. But then I said, are they afraid of me or do they respect me? And I was really hoping you were going to say they respect you, but you said yes. So
yeah, they both fear and love. Yes,
I just want to
and
be
respect.
respected.
Yes.
Okay. So we're in the winter of life. Isn't it great that we can laugh about all these
thank
joyful
you,
things that we've been through? This is another place where you can go to the desert place of life, and the only way to get out of the winter season is to start having conversations.
Okay.
And it is going to be
hard.
Incredibly uncomfortable, because for years I was like, I don't care what it takes, I just want peace.
Yes.
And I have a whiskey, buy a motorcycle, I just want some freaking peace in my life. But we never dealt with the underlying BMW issues and all the issues, and those were still brewing in me because I was feeling dishonored all the time.
Right.
But because of that one dishonor, then the fact that you parked my car and then I had to step in a puddle, I was like, he really doesn't care about me. That's literally what a woman's mind goes, because there was some history there of like, he doesn't care about what I think. Wow. I know.
Good luck, guys. I don't know what to say, but good luck.
But it's true.
It is true.
And so you have to start with a conversation. And for me, it was, it had to be when the kids weren't home. So if it did escalate, that they wouldn't be, have to hear too much of it. But we really had to bring in third-party help.
We did. And guys, that's okay. You get counselors, and again, we've said this many times, you get counselors that want to get you to transformation, not keep you on the payroll. And there are good counselors, not very many, but there are good counselors out there that want to see your marriages transformed, and go see them, because you need a third voice sometimes in your marriage, especially in the winter. Whatever it takes to save your marriage, you do it.
Well, and what we had some professional counselors at one point, and I can't say that they gave us such great advice that it changed everything, but what it did was it gave perspective, and it also gave me a voice, because you were pretty good at shutting me down. Like, if you got upset, then I'm like, okay, well, this is going to escalate, this is going to be really bad, and this is not what I want. And so we just kept going like this for years. So our coaching sessions, what we do is, like, depending on the level of critical care you're at, because when we were at an extreme level of, like, I would say our marriage was on life support.
Yes.
And brain dead.
Yes.
And we needed to be in intensive care, but intensive care was costing like $10,000 a day. And not only were we struggling in our marriage, we'd lost our business and we were financially struggling.
Yep.
And so I just needed someone, like, bring me some perspective. Our coaching that we do is more like, let's just talk about, you talk, because most people figure out what they need to say if someone will just listen and guide them a little bit and ask them
perspective.
Just asking the right questions. When my best friends in the world, when they just say, why did you respond that way? It puts it immediately back on me, and I have to start thinking about that. And that's really, more than counselors, we really just need coaches sometimes, someone to bounce things off.
And a good plug for us as coaches, we are not going to leave you in your stuff. We're going to tell you and be honest with you, tell you the truth in love.
And we'll probably cry.
Like yesterday, I was on a coaching call, and this person knew all the answers. I knew it right when they started talking, but I listened for 30 minutes and let them just go through and at the end of it, I said, you already know all the answers, don't you? And they're like, oh my God, I do. But sometimes we just need that perspective.
Yeah, so. And it does help too when you have a male-female perspective. There was a young couple we were working with, and they just thought what was happening was so horrible. And they said, can we have lunch? And we said, absolutely. We had lunch the next day, and I just said, do you realize that when you say this, he feels this way because he's a man, that's the way God made him? Light bulbs went off.
Right.
And then you said, do you realize that, when you say that to her, that she feels abandoned? And he's like, you're kidding me. I never even changed their marriage.
It did.
And it was a 2-hour lunch,
right.
And it was just some older knowledge and some wisdom of, we've been through this a few times, and sometimes you just need that perspective shift, and that makes it what you need. Okay, so what do we do?
What do we do? If we're in the winter, how do we get to the next season?
If you are in the winter because circumstances are beyond your control, you are going to have to figure out as a couple, how are we going to survive and thrive even though circumstances are out of our control.
So I like what you wrote there. It says, dig in and give it the time and energy that it needs.
Yeah.
If you do that, you can come out of winter and go into spring.
Yes.
But how do we do that?
I like really practical things, because we all know that I'm a super simple girl, but I think, like, actually sitting down and thinking about what your marriage actually is. Because I could sit down in our winter and say, my marriage is horrible. I wish that one of us or both of us would die. I can't see a way out of this. I'm in agony every day. I wake up and I hate my life. My first thought is, I hate my life. That's how bad it was. If I actually would have sat back or had someone guide me through this and say, all right, let's actually really look at this. Is your husband abusive? No. Is he having an affair? No. Does he work? Yes. Is he a good father? He's an excellent father. Is he a leader? Well, he's a great leader. If I actually had sat down and looked at the perspective, are you guys a good team? Actually, we are a really good team. Actually, if you actually sit down and look at it, you can see that maybe there's just one or two things that are off that have taken over everything.
Well, and if your husband's had adultery and you've decided to stick in there, then you can't say that. Well, he's been faithful. No, he hasn't. Am I willing to go down this road and get to forgiveness and get to healing with him?
Huge risk.
It's a huge risk. And guess
risk.
what, though? I admire that, because men, we'll go down to another podcast, but guys, it doesn't matter. What Lisa just, her point is really valid. Find what are the reasons you were married, first of all, and what are the 3 or 4 really good things of why God brought you together, and let's talk about that.
And honestly, in that season, if I had had the knowledge or wisdom or had some counsel that would have walked me through that, if they would have said, okay, you hate your life, you guys are broke, your kids are teenagers, everyone in your house is angry, all this stuff is happening, what would actually like bring you some life right now? And honestly, going out to dinner on a Friday night and laughing.
Yes.
If I had that to look forward to all week, I could look and like, wait, okay, this sucks, but Friday night we're gonna go out and we're not gonna talk about anything serious and we're just gonna have fun. I could have looked forward to that all week. That was enough to keep me alive.
Okay, but let's
like
say
what people actually need is much smaller than what we think.
It's true. We need simplicity.
Yeah.
But let's say we get to that Friday night and we get in a huge fight.
And
then
we
it's
usually did.
We usually did. And then it's like, this is what I was looking forward to all week.
Yeah.
You can't put your hope in that.
Can't put your hope in all that, but you have to think, okay, now what do I need? And so when I've had my critical times in our marriage, I couldn't look at like, what do I have to do to fix this guy? I was like, what do I have to do to keep this guy alive? And for me, that's long walks. That's prayer. That's hiking. That's listening to piano music. That's, escaping into the back of my closet and telling the kids, listen, for the next 15 minutes, I'm not in this house.
Yes.
Do not kill each other. Like, I have got to breathe. And when you're in those critical seasons like that, and you've determined in your mind and in your heart, we're going to overcome this and we're going to be better on the other side of it, but we've got to get through. You have to have a ton of grace for each other and a ton of grace for yourself.
And you have to reach out. Okay, we know when we walk into a marriage if it's good or bad. Okay, we've been around enough. And we know that pride stops us from asking for help. And guys, I promise you, there are times, especially in marriage, that we just need a third-party perspective to help us navigate. And so don't be afraid of that. You have to do that.
Talk about what you're in, and then remember the beautiful things. Remember, there's a reason why I couldn't wait till you got to my house on a Friday night. There's a reason why when the phone rang and I saw it was you, that my heart fluttered. Like, you're still that person. That person is still in there, and that person is still in me. Go back to those things and remember those things and begin to rebuild. And if you are in those desperate situations where you're like, listen, we have all these kids, we need a Friday night to stay alive. Like, trade with your friends, be creative. Like, we were creative with our dates with no money.
Yes.
We could go on a date and spend no money. We could get a motorcycle and drive and not have a conversation and feel like we renewed. It was the best marriage retreat we could go on, was to get on the motorcycle and just drive through the mountains and do that thing. And so
Absolutely.
Whatever you were thriving in when you were so in love and everything was working, go back to some of those things and remember those things and relive them.
And the key there, guys, is don't idolize them, right? Don't idolize it. Remember when it was so good and we could just do this and now we can't? That's idolizing something that's not real. The memories, the good memories you share together, and then you remake some more memories.
Yeah.
We're always making new memories together. So don't get into idolizing the past and how good it was and how much it sucks now, right? That there might be truth to that, and there is in marriage at different seasons, especially in the winter season. But I'm not going to idolize that. We're going to make new memories. So what can we do creatively with no money and kids screaming? What can we do creatively to just make some new memories? Do something today that we've never done before in our marriage and have some fun with it.
And the last thing we'll say on winter is your words are everything.
Your words are everything.
And I am the queen of sarcasm. Oof. And sarcasm is anger with a smile. And
there's always truth in what everybody says.
I may not come out yelling and screaming and ripping my hair out, but I will make a little sarcastic comment that will knock your legs right out from underneath you. I have that power. It's a superpower. I thought it was a gift. Turns out it's a bit of a curse. It's gotten me in a lot of trouble in my life, but words are everything. Yeah. And so when you are in the winter season, take a deep breath before you speak.
Yes.
Think things through, say less, listen more. Assume the best. Go back. We're going to go, when we go into the spring here, we're going to go back to what love actually really, really is.
Yep.
And go back to those things.
And remember that you don't get to react, you get to respond. So this was really hard for me because I can cut people's legs out very quickly. I can try to exaggerate and sell something to you.
Because it's all control.
And
That's all we
it's all fear, manipulation, and control.
Yeah, we protect ourselves.
But we don't want to. So when you know you're in a heat, guys, you've got to talk about this. When you're in the winter season, and you know it's going to get heated, and again, sometimes that's okay. Sometimes go for it. But you've got to be able to say, look, we've agreed that I'm going to take an hour and I'm going to go on a walk, and then we'll come back together. Or we're going to take this day and not talk about this, and we'll come back on it. And then do that. Actually follow through and come back to the time that you've agreed to come back to it. But you want to get out of responding or reacting in anger to responding from a heart that actually wants to get healed. So that is critical in the winter seasons. And sometimes it's impossible. And you've just got to have grace for yourself and for one another.
All right. Ready for
Spring.
spring?
Just make out on the video here. You guys, you need to watch these videos. My gosh, they're powerful.
It's crazy. So the thing about spring is we always think new life, and we always think there's these little buds popping up everywhere. Well, those same things have been dormant for an entire winter. They have been hibernating.
Yes.
We could go for a hike right out there right now. We might run into a bear.
Yep.
That bear has been there all winter. He was just hibernating.
Yes.
And now he's fully alive and he's hungry, right?
Okay.
And that's really what spring is. It's new life and it's new birth, but it comes out of dormant places.
Okay.
And I don't think you get new life unless you go to the dormant places. Unless you go to the place where
See,
things
I love
have...
this. This is so good. This is so true.
It is.
You can't know spring if you don't know winter. Let's just be honest. I mean, again, we get married in summer and it's euphoric, and then as soon as fall comes, we start getting pissed at each other and we start fighting. It takes us into winter. Guys, we can't know spring without fall and winter. You just cannot know it. And so, just like you can't know spring or summer without going through the fall, you've got to go through these seasons in your marriage, and you've got to be okay with that. Honestly, it's not the end. It's a part of making you stronger and better together. Spring.
The interns always take their favorite quotes from us while we're teaching, and then they post them on the walls, and most of the ones from you and I were totally inappropriate.
Yeah, inappropriate, sorry.
But the one that they put from me said, Lisa Black, talking to God, sorry I was such a bee on Monday, I didn't know Thursday was coming. And that, I mean, I can think of how many times I've been like crying out to God, like, do you see me? Do you care? Do you know what's happening in my family? Do you know what's happening in my life? Do you know what? And I'm like, I'm accusing him. And then he doesn't say a word, and then this miracle happens on Friday. And by Friday, I mean that could be years or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad that I lashed out and I lashed out and I lashed out. And if in our winter season, instead of lashing out and accusing and saying this is at the end, instead of that, thinking that the spring is coming. And then when you get to the spring, you won't carry quite as much guilt about all the things you said in the winter, because you're like, wait a minute. It's new life has been birthed out of these dead places.
That's so good, babe. That's really good. Yes.
We had dead places.
Yes.
But it was, and the crazy thing is, we didn't think we were learning anything.
Yep.
We did not think we were gaining any wisdom.
Mm-mm.
We thought we were forgotten by God and forgotten by our community. And we felt very isolated, very alone. We felt like we were suffering in silence. And literally everything that we do now today is linked back to that winter season.
Absolutely.
That's where all the growth actually took place in the darkest time.
That's, well, and if you've lived half a minute, you know that the only time we learn and grow is when we fail. You don't learn when you keep being successful. I mean, it's wonderful to be successful, and I encourage it. But the only time you really learn anything is when you fail at something. And so when you fail in marriage in those winter seasons, and you can get to spring, the wisdom and understanding that comes from you will change other people's lives. Not only your life is changed, but the whole point is that you can help other marriages transform, right?
Okay, so let's
right.
say Corinthians.
1 Corinthians 13.
You gotta do it.
The way of love.
And you have to do it the message, because it's the only way.
The message, God, I love the message.
I love it too.
If I speak with human eloquence and angelic ecstasy, but not love, I am nothing but the creaking of a rusty gate. If I speak God's word with power, revealing all his mysteries and making everything plain as day, and if I have faith that says to a mountain, jump, and it jumps, but I do not love, I'm nothing. If I give everything I own to the poor and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't love, I've gotten nowhere. God's so good.
I know it is
So,
good, isn't it?
no matter what I say, what I believe, and what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. And this is beautiful, guys. And you need to put this on your mirror in your winter season, and you need to say it to yourselves and to one another. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want
what it doesn't have.
Love doesn't strut. Oof. Doesn't have a swelled head. Doesn't force itself on others. Isn't always me first. Doesn't fly off the handle. Doesn't keep score
of the sins of others. Doesn't revel in another's gravel.
Oh, grovel, yeah.
Gravel, sorry. And the pleasure of flowering of truth. Puts up, that's the spring right there.
Yeah, back up a little bit.
Takes pleasure in the flowering of truth, which is the spring.
Puts up with anything. Trust God always. Always look for the best, and it never looks back. But it keeps going to the end. And that doesn't mean the end of your marriage. That means when we're in heaven and we no longer need to be married because we're in ecstasy, we're in that beautiful, perfect place. And so, but right now we're to bring heaven to earth in our marriages and make it look just like that. Go read 1 Corinthians. You can't do anything. The reason God put it between chapters 12 and 14 is because 12 is all about the gifts. It's beautiful. The love language of heaven is the gifts in 12. There's 9 gifts in 1 Corinthians 12. Then he puts in the middle love. And he says, these gifts don't matter unless you love from a pure heart. And then what does he do in 14? He says, eagerly desire prophecy. Because why? It strengthens and encourages and comforts the body of Christ. And then guess what? In Galatians 5, there's 9 fruits of the Spirit. So we always balance this in our marriage. The gifts of the Spirit, we prophesy over one another. We strengthen and comfort and encourage one another. And then we love, in the midst of it, we're always loving. And then the fruits of the Spirit, we're growing in love and in joy and in peace and in goodness and in kindness and in long suffering. Long suffering in marriage is the point.
Yep.
You got to make it.
Absolutely. That's good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to start preaching, but
that's all right. I had forward through all my notes because you kind of covered all of it right then. So yeah, I think we can just wrap it up that there is going to be changes. There's going to be seasons, and nothing more depressing in the world than in the hard times thinking this is never going to end, because there's always hope. And
always hope.
Kingdom of God is all about hope, and love is all about hope. And people are so distraught right now in this country, and there's so many things going on. And I just think, what a great setup for hope.
What a great setup for hope.
You know, you start taking that perspective after you've been through a few things,
yep.
like the things we've been through just this week. When I was 25, it would have taken me out. I would have said, why is nothing working? Why is this such a big war? Why am I blah, 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 blah? And now I'm like, you know what? I look back on that time now and I think it did work out. It worked out differently than I thought. It was usually better than I thought. And it usually came in a way I didn't think it was going to come, but it did work out. And that's the way you have to look at your marriage, is that it's not the end. It's a season.
It's a season.
And you can push through it.
And again, you'll have hundreds of those. You'll go through lots of falls, lots of winters, lots of summers, but let's get to spring, the newness. Guys, look, in the midst of all the Black Lives Matter stuff and all the rioting and COVID spiking back up and all these current times that we're in, this isn't the end times. It's been the end times for 2,000 years, people. Okay? This isn't tribulation coming. Tribulation isn't going to come. It's not going to get worse. There's going to be bad things that keep happening on the planet. I want you to think about this. If you were in Spain in 1914 and the Spanish flu came and killed 50 million people, you would have thought that was the end of the end.
50 to 100 million people they don't all over the world, and they had nowhere near the transit that we have now.
Right. And so this, we have hope, guys. And in your marriage, it feels like a COVID season. It feels like riots are breaking out. It feels like pandemonium is everywhere. And guess what? There's still hope. God's still going to show up if you'll allow him to. And you get to long suffer with one another. Learn to the fruits of the Spirit. Become long suffering, because it's hard, and it's supposed to be, because when it's hard, you understand what spring looks like. Amen? All right.
I think the best thing you can do is get off Facebook and turn off the news.
God, please.
Take your children, your grandchildren, your spouse, and
Take
just
your wife,
go.
take your kids, take your...
Go love some people.
Go love some
Just
people.
go. It's really
out
not
and love
that
people.
difficult. It's actually really fun. We got off the plane in Atlanta. Everyone told us you need to have your face mask on. There's riots all through Atlanta. You shouldn't go out after dark. I dropped him off at the hotel. I went right to Target. I talked to everybody that would talk to me because they were all speaking English, and nobody had spoken English to me in 6 months in Spain. And I was so excited. I talked to old people and young people and children and everyone. And I just thought everyone's just human, and we're
Yes.
just making this too complicated. And if we could just really be kind and think the best of each other and be respectful to each other, 99% of this stuff would go away.
It's true.
There's always going to be wars. There's always going to be evil people.
Yep.
There's always going to be conflict. That's been there since the beginning of time. But we have an opportunity to make this really a hopeful time.
And when you get stuck as a single person, when you get stuck in your marriage, go serve other people. Get your eyes off yourselves.
That's really true.
And go give yourselves to other people.
good.
Go do a homeless shelter. Go pray for another married couple. Whatever it takes. But get your eyes off yourself. GaryandLisaBlack.com. Leave us suggestions, any comments, anything you want to hear, any topics you want us to do podcasts on. Patreon.com/GaryandLisaBlack if you want to see the videos, my cool new Colorado t-shirt and Colorado mug, our mugs. And again, please email us and anything that you want to talk to us about.
Who knew?
Walmart Colorado mugs. God bless you guys. We love you. We're proud of you. Stay in
Don't
your
give up.
marriage.
Look
in
how
Jesus'
happy
name.
we are.